Welcome back to Fast Market, everyone. Kevin Hinks and Nick Theodorakis back here for our cash tag segment. For that, I'd like to bring in the co-founder of LikeFolio.com, Mr. Andy Swan, to the show. Andy, this is an easy lift for you talking about Tesla. I'm going to give you a couple talking points. Is it Elon Musk visiting China last week, Mongolia this week, looking to expand? Is it the fact that Panasonic now wants to make more batteries in the U.S.? Is it that Ford is now going to use Tesla charging stations, another revenue stream? Or is it the Model 3 now being eligible for $7,500? How much? I'm a big fan of news flow, Andy, and the news flow for Tesla right now is all positive, and the stock reflects that, Andy.
Yeah, it really is, and it's a stark contrast to what we saw just a few months ago when everything was focused on the controversies around Elon Musk and all of these crazy distractions. I think the stock got down, close to $100, where actually at that point, I believe was the first time in a really long time, if not forever, that Tesla's growth rate was greater than its price to earnings ratio. Kind of became a value stock there for a blip, which is really interesting. Now we've rallied off of that very considerably, up to 224, and I think really the story with Tesla for me is that, you've got Ford going into the EV market kind of all in. Just down the road from us here in Kentucky, there's, a $6 billion, I think, investment into this enormous battery factory that I drove by the other day. It's quite a sight to behold, and it tells you how much they think the electric vehicle market's going to be worth in the future. And then when you think about that, and then think about how far ahead Tesla is of the competition, and that gap, I think, continues to grow. It's really hard to justify any valuation on Tesla other than the fact that it continues to be, even as the world's largest and most valuable automaker, continues to be a binary bet. And I think people still need to understand that that's the entire premise behind Tesla. And when we look at LikeFolio data, from an electric vehicle standpoint, there's two convergent trends going on. One is, as electric vehicle demand ramps up, which it continues to do. We put the red line on here to kind of show that this is an up and to the right chart if you zoom out just a few years. Sure. What happened during the last summer was gas prices went crazy. And when gas prices go up and go crazy, that provides a boon to the electric vehicle market in a really big way. And so every time we see this cycle of rising gas prices, we're going to see a continued boon to an already up and to the right trend in the EV market. And alongside of that, Tesla is kind of the only player that matters at this point, and I don't see that changing anytime soon.
It's a really fascinating chart, and I don't think about it being that tied to gas prices, but now you're seeing the other more traditional automakers getting involved with Tesla. I just wonder, as Ford moves away from gas, right? They've had some success with the electric vehicles already, and now they're getting into, production with Tesla. It seems like everybody's, leaning in there, and as you see more shift away from gas, do you think that trend continues, or do you think there's a breakage there where there's just less consideration for it because all of the automakers are leaning into electric? Or is that more of a consumer-driven issue, and you're just seeing people tick up and say, hey, I'm going to buy an electric car when gas goes up no matter what?
Yeah, I don't see any stopping this trend, to be honest. I think electric vehicles now make up 5 or 6% of total vehicle sales. I don't see why that would stop until we get to 70% probably at some point. It's just, these are better vehicles. It's a better experience. It's the next generation of technology. I think there's certain use cases where they just don't work and never will. So you'll always have, traditional combustion engines on the road, but I think eventually we get up into really, really big numbers. And to me, the follow-on of these traditional manufacturers into the EV space, I see it more of an act of desperation than of innovation. And so, I think Ford is probably as far along as it gets and probably ahead of the game as it gets, and they're already kind of waving the white flag and partnering with Tesla in a lot of ways. I think that's the future of the industry, and I think Tesla is the leader that will be the undisputed champion of this for quite some time.
And Andy, we see signs of this so often in the markets, right? You can look at streaming right now. We just reported on Netflix.
Yep.
There's clearly a leader in the streaming space, and that's Netflix. There's clearly a leader in electric vehicles, and that's Tesla. And Andy, we didn't even get into robo-taxis. We didn't even get into robotics. We didn't even get into the spin-offs, like because Teslas are heavier, tires will be more in demand. There's so many branches, so many splinters from the Tesla popularity. It's hard to fit them all in one show. This could be the Tesla show.
Yeah, it really could. And, you make a great point, because all of these innovations that are going into the vehicle have applications outside of the vehicle. I wouldn't be surprised to see Tesla start spinning off some very valuable companies over the next 3 to 4 years, especially in battery technology, charging technology, and overall power storage, even solar. So I think there's a lot of value being created inside of the walls that doesn't necessarily make it into the vehicles. But like you led with in this at the beginning of this, I think it's a really big deal that you've got a Tesla Model 3 available for basically $40,000. That's an unbelievable price. It makes it really hard to justify going out and buying, a Toyota Camry or something like that when you've got that just sitting there. And the craziest stat I've seen in a long time is that in Q1 of 2023, the Tesla Model Y was the #1 selling car in the entire world. You don't see many of those in the US, but it speaks to what's going on around the world, that's the #1 selling car in the entire world, and you hardly even see them around here.
Well, the suburbs of Chicago, Andy, are full of Teslas, and it just keeps growing. And now, finally, what I'm noticing, Andy, you're starting to get some used Teslas for sale in some of the dealerships. So that could be another deal, but there's so many things that this company's doing. Andy Swan, we appreciate you coming on all the time.
Andy.
Like I said, this was an easy one to talk about today. We can do the whole show on Tesla. Andy, good to see you as always.
Thanks.
All right, Nick, you have a trade for us in Tesla, and this is one, it's hard to put a finger on this because if you talk valuation, it's hard to make a case. However, what they have in the pipeline should get everyone excited about this company. That doesn't mean the stock's going up, Nick. It's extremely overbought right now on the RSI. I've got the current number on the RSI.